Hello, hello, and welcome to Elevator Pitch, the show which we do the same thing each time, so I don't know why I do an intro that explains it. I'm Paul, and joining me today is James, as always. Hi there,
Hey
James.
everyone. Hey Paul.
Hi. It's good to see you. Good to see you. And joining us today, I can hear the music. Something weird's going on here. Anyway, good. It's always good to start with technical problems. That's what I've found. Joining me today is Paul Conway of... Oh, I know what's going on. I've got a small problem on my end. If you just hold with me for 1 second.
Professional as always.
Oh, yes. So while we wait, Paul, explain to us what your game is, FrankNJohn.
Yeah, so FrankNJohn is a head-swapping roguelike smash-em-up set in a little house of horrors. It's a bit of a mouthful.
So we're not like a Frankenstein. We're a FrankNJohn.
Yeah.
So where does this character come from?
So this character comes from this sort of vague memory I had as a child. I walked in on my mother and she was going through sort of old photographs and just old junk. And as a kid, you're obviously curious, so I jumped in and started rummaging through some stuff. And what struck me was that I found a pack of birth certs. Like you get a birth cert but from the hospital. There was 2 birth certs for my brother from 2 different hospitals, which obviously is very strange. And that kind of stuck with me over the years. And about 2 years ago, during the conception for FrankNJohn, it popped into my head, and just this idea of 2 different children from 2 different hospitals and getting like stuck together to create this sort of FrankNchild.
It's FrankNJohn.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so it's sort of like a dungeon crawler roguelike, where you're fighting kind of lots of swarms of enemies rather than kind of like a few. Just a few at a time. So what's the basic mechanics for this?
So the base mechanic is that you have a head that's attached to your body via a chain, and you swing your head around and smack enemies, basically, with your noggin.
Now, then there's a whole bunch of different kinds of heads, right?
Yeah. So what you might see in a more traditional roguelike or even RPG or action game is you might find different weapons that are lying around. So we have this system called skull caps, which basically replace the top of FrankNJohn's head. And in a sense, that is our weapon system. They sort of, we can kind of do anything we want with them.
You got a lot of heads, right?
Yeah. I mean, at the moment we have maybe 25 implemented to some degree. And we plan to have certainly over 100 in the final game, yeah.
Yeah, and so if you're going for that many, then there's going to be some in there surely that are a little bit bullshit, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'd say 70% useful, 20% weird, and 10% get this off my head. Yeah.
So what can we expect out of the duds?
Some of them might teleport you randomly around the level, or invert your controls, or put the game into isometric mode. And some people actually dig that one. That's in the game at the moment. It sort of flips the camera into an isometric mode. I hate it personally, but that's backfired. We put that in thinking it would like wreck people's heads, but it's backfired and people love it. So yeah, I don't know. I'm sure the inverted controls though would kind of tick people off.
It sounds like a good opportunity to try some really crazy stuff.
Yeah, I mean, surprise and experimentation are the 2 things that we're really going for,
Have there been any of the kind of like, I'll just say broken heads that have been surprisingly useful?
Broken heads. Not particularly. I mean, some of them are obviously broken because we're still quite early on. But I guess there was one that it was called the Demo Man head. So it turned your head into this sort of big wrecking ball, and that just behaved like, instead of like as you would imagine a ball sort of being flailed around, it behaved more like a balloon on steroids. So it was just like popping up in the air and like lifting FrankNJohn up in weird ways and stuff. And
Is that still in the demo? Is that still in the demo at the moment?
It's been fixed actually. It's still not perfect. It's still a bit light.
Because I had one that was very similar to that. My head just disappeared, and then the camera jumped all over the place, and then it returned, but it inflated again. Yeah, it was good.
Or one of the other many bugs that are in there.
But that's what it's the roguelike thing, you know, when you play Binding of Isaac or something like that, it's like it might not work. It could even bug out. And it's okay. It doesn't matter. It's kind of fun, and it goes out of the way. I mean, even it's not a roguelike, but Magicka, the whole reason that game rules is because it's buggy as hell, and you have no idea what's going to go on. It's always an expansion.
Yeah, and you will have the option to sort of you know, if you're not happy with that head, you can like spend marbles, which is sort of the in-game currency, to, you know, roll the dice again and get a new head, and then the cost of that will sort of rise each time you do it. So there is that option then, you know, if you get a real dud that you don't want to stick with.
So I had a question about the head swapping, because you can also swap your body, right? Like you can.
Yeah. Body parts,
there's bits and pieces. So when I heard about that, I had a little bit of an existential crisis. So how many parts can I swap out before I am no longer FrankNJohn?
Damn you! That's a pretty legitimate question, but I guess the answer to that is that in a sense, FrankNJohn is every player, and certainly when we reveal the narrative, you'll see that FrankNJohn is sort of a blank slate. Even though he's called FrankNJohn, he's sort of like, you know, he's there to be filled out by the person playing him. He hasn't got much story as opposed to the other characters that are in the game.
So he's a literary everyman. That's what you're saying.
Sorry?
He is the everyman. It's a very literary device we've got there. It's highbrow. That's what we're going for.
That's it. And the idea is that he becomes your own little Franken monster as you shape him and change him and stuff like that.
And so you play through. You mentioned there's not much story for FrankNJohn himself, but there are a few areas that you play through, right? So there's a definite kind of progression through the whole game.
Oh, absolutely. Like, we haven't done much reveal on the story yet because we're kind of still working out the kinks. But there is a pretty dark narrative thread running through the story, through the game. The whole idea is that you're, you know, trying to smash your way up through this funhouse, this mansion, to confront your maker, Dr. Harmon, who is this sort of crazy scientist. I don't know if you've seen the film Reanimator. It's based on a H.P. Lovecraft story. It's sort of like him. He's this crazy. He was once this normal man, and he's just gone completely mental and deluded. And he's just obsessed with creating life and stuff. So you're trying to smash your way up there to find answers. And there is I won't reveal anything obviously, but there is a pretty deep narrative in there. And the structure of the mansion sort of fits into that. You have 4 themed worlds in a sense, I guess you'd call them, or floors. And certainly the narrative flows from bottom to top. You sort of work your way through the 5 stages of depression, which again ties into the narrative. So you've like the Furnace of Anger, and the Garden of Denial, and the Cistern of Depression, and the Word of Isolation. So each one sort of specifically tackles a different theme. And sort of the monsters and the sort of rooms and bits you'll see on those floors will reflect the theme of that floor specifically. Yeah. Really
so it sounds like there's some kind of deeper themes running underneath what you're doing. Is there any kind of personal reasons you've gone for that?
Yeah, I guess, like, you know, no matter what we're working on, we sort of always try and put personal experiences into it. It's just easier to work with the subjects when it's coming from a personal background. So there is some of the stuff is probably exaggerated a little bit, but yeah, certainly from personal experiences, yeah.
Okay, it's
Now, on the levels and okay.
No, you go, man.
On the levels themselves, it's roguelike in that the levels are also randomized. At the moment, the demo, it's not a randomized level.
No.
What's the current status of that, and the plans of how are you approaching the idea of randomizing levels?
So this is a big topic because we've been working on FrankNJohn for a year. The randomization is actually in place in the actual game itself. Obviously, the arena is just a slice; it's just a representation of sort of the gameplay that you can expect. But we have the randomization in place. But the reason we haven't actually released a demo of the other build is because we're still working on the structure of the level layouts. We're trying to get it right. Beforehand, what happened was we had this big collection of little rooms, and we'd stitched them together randomly as you played the game. But we did a lot of testing on that, and the rooms were kind of small and square, maybe more akin to sort of like the Binding of Isaac. We had the small rooms, and we progressed from one room to the next. But we're trying to expand the rooms out into something much more like the arena, where they're sort of bigger and you've got multiple floors and levels, and basically randomize the level out of chunks of what you might see in the arena. The ramps and the different pillars and stuff like that. So that's coming along really well.
It was one of those things that I really enjoyed in the demo, that it wasn't like Binding of Isaac where you had this small isolated space. There were sort of roomish areas, but because it was an actual 3D space and you could jump, you could sort of find your own shortcuts and navigate in different ways. And then also in the trailer that you've put together, it shows that you can go up to levels above lower levels and stuff like that. So even though it's still a bit abstract, it's more of a world, and there's other relationships between it. Actually reminded me a bit of Zelda on the 3DS. The way they have some of those dungeons that are sort of floating in different levels of space, they all relate.
Yeah, I mean, a combination of those two, the version you see in the trailer and the arena, is something we're going for. And being able to see the level in the distance, the sprawling level, being able to see this giant boss who's lurking in a room in the distance, and knowing that you have to face off with this boss at some point. And also, just being able to pick out points that you want to try and get to and explore. If you see like a hedatron, which is where you get the skull caps, or a secret room or something in the distance, that's really cool to be able to see that from up high and to be able to look down at this level. And we're nearly there. We're nearly there with that.
Yeah, that kind of view of levels, it almost gets a little bit Dark Souls. Hey, like you can just sort of see stuff off to the distance and go, I can get there and moving back to.
Sure. Not everything is Dark Souls, James.
No, I will bring everything back to Dark Souls.
Yeah. Well, I can have a big conversation with Dark Souls about it if you want. I mean, there's certainly major Dark Souls influences in there. Certainly level structure and the sort of the way that you approach playing, sort of lurking around corners and getting caught off guard by mob packs and stuff like that. Certainly.
Well, it's also a lot more full than most roguelikes and such I've played, even the more action-oriented ones. The amount of enemies that you have in the area. When I first started playing the game, I didn't realize that the way I attacked was with my head with the right stick. I couldn't find a button, and I thought until I found the head, I wasn't able to attack. So I actually played for the first 5 minutes or so that I played it with no attack, just dodging enemies. It was surprisingly satisfying. So it was just it's a lot busier and a lot of things going on, like closer to almost like a Smash TV level of enemy density that's going on.
Exactly, and that's something that again, with the older structure we had with the random generation, the enemies were more sporadic and spread out. There weren't those like crazy amounts on screen at once, and with the arena demo, that sort of built up from a small prototype area that we were testing out controls in and stuff, and it evolved into the arena because it just turned out to be quite a lot of fun. So now we're looking to sort of have more packs on screen. Probably not as many as you see in the arena. I think it's kind of at the higher end of the craziness. So probably a little less and a little bit more spread out around corners and stuff like that. But
you need to mix up the pace now and then, don't you? You guys can't have it busy all the time.
Yeah,
but on that, actually, the enemies in there were actually pretty good at following me around as well. So it meant that I could sort of kite a whole bunch of enemies to one, especially if I had the Tesla hat, so I could zap them all at once and everything. Just as far as enemy AI goes and everything, is there much in the way of limits of how far they can physically follow you?
Yeah, so certain enemies actually have an aggro radius. So if you move outside of a certain distance, they'll go back to patrolling. Um, I think only maybe 2 or 3 of the enemies have that in there at the moment. But yeah, I think it's important to. I mean, you could cheese the game technically by just kiting everything and hitting everything while you're running. So there's some balancing to be done there, of course, and to make sure that players can't necessarily do that. But we also want to give players the freedom to be able to play the way they want, in a sense, within confines, of course. Yeah.
So with the enemies, they're going to be themed depending on the area that you're in. You've got some art up on your page sort of saying this is the theme and this is sort of how the enemies reflect the theme that you're in. Are they going to mechanically change between each area as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, the mechanics kind of reflect the enemy design and the theme. So in the furnace area, which we haven't showed yet, that has like a bull slug, and he's got a big metal plated head, and he'll sort of charge towards you, and he can get his head stuck in walls and stuff, so you can dodge his attacks, and he'll get stuck in walls, and you can then run up behind him and stab him in the back. And yeah, I mean, we're having great fun designing abilities at the moment for enemies. We're messing around with physics quite a lot as well, because everything in FrankNJohn is sort of physics based. So having like bits of armor and stuff that you can smash off enemies is something we're messing around with as well. Weak spots and that kind of old school stuff.
I noticed there was a good amount of variety with the boss attacks as well from the video. So are the bosses going to be any randomness there, or they're going to be kind of well defined?
So the idea is that at the moment we have one major boss per floor, and narratively speaking, if you play through the game the first time, you will experience the set boss for that floor on the first playthrough, and then if you clear the game, sort of like New Game Plus, I guess, or if you clear it and play again, the bosses will randomly shuffle, and there'll be more bosses added into the pool then. Because it's important for us that you get that narrative experience, certainly the first time through, because we're working quite hard on that. So, and then there will be lots of mini bosses as well that will be purely randomized. Yeah.
Excellent. Visually, is there any inspiration drawing for your visual style of the game?
We're trying to capture that. Those old posters you used to see of. I can give you one example: the Goonies. Those sort of old, 80s movies that had a sort of painted poster look. That's the kind of style we're going for. Those old sort of B-movie style horror movies, I guess. And Goonies, I guess, is a big inspiration for it.
Yeah, one of the things that I noticed a little bit in some of the footage put out there is that some of it has like a cel-shaded outline and some of it doesn't. Is that still something you were playing around with? Or?
Yeah, I mean, we had it in there and it looked quite sharp, but it's kind of broken at the moment, so some of it is showing up. So I'm not sure if we're going to get rid of it or not, but what it does help do is that it sort of helps define enemies a bit more. It helps them sort of sit off the environment. And we quite liked it, but it sort of worked its way out in recent times, and we've got used to it without it. So I'm not sure if it'll come back in. We'll see.
Okay. I just want to briefly touch back on the narrative again, because it's always interesting in roguelikes when you have permadeath, which this game has. How does the permadeath fit into telling the story?
So we've tackled that very point. Again, I actually don't want to give this away because it's sort of a twist.
Okay. All right, no spoilers.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's not what you expect, but it's there, all right. An explanation for it.
Cool. So, without spoilers, will I have to start? Like, is there something where I have to start the whole experience again every time from go, or there's be some kind of, or is this just getting into spoiler territory?
No spoiler territory. So basically, what the way the world is structured is that you have a hub world, which is basically in FrankNJohn's grave. So it's in his grave, and it's a little dugout hole, and this is where he kind of chills out. And you can sort of upgrade your hub a little bit and stuff like that. But access to the 4 different floors are gained through the hub, through tunnels that he buries through the dirt in the hub world. So the idea is that the first world is open, of course, and then the other 3 worlds are sort of sealed off, and you need to find the tools to be able to break through.
Oh, okay, I see. That's cool.
And then of course you can save shortcuts. You can unlock shortcuts to those worlds. So that if you die, you can go straight to world 2 or 3 or 4 if you get that far.
Okay, cool. Because I generally don't like going back right to the beginning of roguelikes. Like, sometimes they can get really harsh.
Yeah. Exactly. And something that ties in with the sort of permadeath is the body part system. Which is sort of like a traditional armor system in other games. Those things actually are persistent. So if you collect them and die, they'll stick with you. So the game sort of gets a little bit easier the more you play. So it can be quite difficult to begin with, but then as you sort of upgrade your body, it becomes slightly more easier over time.
Now when we spoke about this on the show, I accidentally said, "Oh, it's got co-op." And then I went, oh, wait, I didn't actually read that. I'm an idiot. Has there been any discussion about any potential styles of multiplayer that could be integrated?
Yeah, so actually co-op is one of our stretch goals on the campaign.
I knew I read it somewhere. I wasn't making it up.
It's there. We would love to put it in. We've got some tests going at the moment, but it's going to be a lot of work. 2-player co-op, or even 4-player co-op, maybe would work. 2-player would be amazing, though. We sort of grew up.
I think you take a page from Mario Double Dash and have one person control the movement of FrankNJohn, and the other person controls the head. Yeah, easy.
Because the very first prototype, that's exactly what it was. The first prototype was more of an adventure game. It was less of an action game, and the idea was that it was heavily co-op focused, and one player would control the head and one player would control the body, and you could actually detach the head and pop it off and roll the head around, like in Metroid, it's the ball in Metroid. One player would control that, and then it would be able to sort of creep through holes and walls and stuff like that, and the head would be the offensive player and the body would be the defensive player and stuff like that. So that was the very first prototype, but we'd certainly like to get something like that back into it. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Well, I think, as it stands...
The current implementation... Oh, sorry.
I think we're saying the same thing. The current implementation, you can just be good friends and share the controller.
You could be. which could work. Which could actually be, one stick each. That could be amazing, yeah.
But I do want to play the original sort of design as well, because that sounded really unique. Don't know if it will be as easily accessible as the current version is, but... Oh, I like it.
True.
Yeah, I like the ideas at play.
Yeah, maybe it'll be a skull cap or something. We'll see. But we do have another playable character in the form of Marianne. She's going to be in the game from the very start as a playable character. So you can actually choose to play as Marianne, which is kind of like just a girl version of FrankNJohn. She's sort of like a clean slate, and which would be cool then for co-op. And of course, if you choose to play as Marianne, the idea is that FrankNJohn will sort of pop up at various points throughout the game and offer you some help in single-player mode, that is, and also add some narrative into it as well, and then vice versa for FrankNJohn and Marianne.
Now, on the hats, we've seen a bunch of the hats, and we had a question that we sort of got brought up to you earlier in the week, which was, what does the cotton candy cap do? And there are a few suggestions made.
Yeah.
But, what have we settled on?
Can you give me an example? Have you got one of those suggestions?
My suggestion was that it should be quite horrible. So the cotton candy hat should allow you to shoot your own rotten teeth out of your head, terrifying and tearing apart all of your enemies.
Brilliant.
I think Simone's was that it should just make everyone chase you as if they're excited children on a sugar high. But yeah. I do like the idea of rotting teeth out of your head.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I like it.
bit more. Yeah.
I think the existing one is something like you can wind people up with cotton candy and tie them together, and they jump around and stuff. They get stuck together.
Sounds like the Spider-Man hat.
Yeah, it's like a web essentially. Yeah.
Good. So at the moment, what platforms are you targeting, and what ones are you hoping to target if you can?
Yeah, so PC, Mac, Linux are the current platforms, and we are in talks with Sony about bringing it to PS4, Vita, hopefully, and we'll see what happens with Microsoft down the line. But I mean, like the main thing for us is to sort of get it as many places as possible, which is not always feasible, but certainly the platform holders has made it really open and straightforward to get onto their platform. So yeah, hopefully
it's certainly easier than it was 5 years ago.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Sony has been amazing. Like the process has been like really straightforward. So yeah, I mean more on that later. But yeah, we're very hopeful of bringing it to consoles. That'll be I mean to us it sort of feels like a couch game with a joypad, you know. And again, if we can get co-op in, you know, that's sort of the dream, really. Like we just, you know, we grew up playing games like Zombies Ate My Neighbors, you know, couch co-op games where you'd be crunched around a tiny little 14-inch TV with 2 controllers. So if we can achieve something like that, that would be amazing.
I quickly reached behind me to see if I still had Zombies Ate My Neighbors in the SNES, but unfortunately, it's Boogerman at the moment, so whoops. Also, on a completely non-game related issue, every time I've coughed, have you guys heard it? Because it looks like Google's taken like 3 seconds to mute me when I cough.
Oh, is that what the mute is?
Yeah. I'm like, it cuts to me. I'm like, why is the video cutting to me? I'm coughing my guts out. Anyway, thank you, Google. Always quick, always.
It's got the latest in cough tracking technology.
Exactly. It's like for a while they turned, if you were typing, it would mute your microphone. So you couldn't be chatting to one person while talking to the other, or your audio would cut out. Brilliant ideas all the time. Anyway, so at the moment, Kickstarter. You've been 2 weeks on Kickstarter now, a little bit over.
Yeah, we've filled it over 2 weeks.
How are you finding your Kickstarter experience at the moment?
Oh, so we were.
That's the right thing.
No, that pretty much sums it up. You know, people warn you about Kickstarter, and you're like, yeah, whatever, it'll be fine, you know. But you know, nothing can prepare you for like emotionally, and not even like, you know, in terms of work, how hard a work it is, but emotionally it's such a drain. You turn from like, hey, look at our lovely game and play it and tell us what you think, to hey, look at our game, want to give us money? It's just this whole different mindset, and it's not something that we're comfortable with, because, you know, if we were you know, in games to make money, we'd certainly be looking for different jobs. So it's kind of a shift in mindset to be begging family and friends and the internet for money.
It's not begging, it's pre-orders.
It's pre-orders, yeah, I know. We have to keep reminding ourselves that. And, you know, I often see the word donation being thrown up, and it's like, it's not a donation. We're giving you something in return. Oh, but it's exhausting. Yeah, just, you know, it's the first thing you check in the morning and the last thing you check at night, you know, just to see check the comments. And, I mean, I would advise, it's on one hand, I'm saying I'd never do a Kickstarter again. But on the other hand, it's been truly a successful experience, even if we fail, because we've had so many eyes on the game, you know, so that when it comes to Steam, at least it won't be sort of maybe as hidden as it would be. And also, we've gotten using into press and made press links and contacts in the press. So in that sense, it's been, yeah, you know, we're just waiting to go.
And I saw John Romero link to it.
Yeah,
so you've always got that.
It's pretty cool. I can retire now. That's it. I'm done. Like, you know, if 11-year-old me playing Doom had said, you know, hey, John Romero will, you know, purchase your game in a few years. Nah. And he did purchase back the game. He went for like a T-shirt tier and everything, which is like insane.
Nice. I got to go to GDC this year, and I got to see the man himself.
Yeah.
Majestic.
Yeah. I actually met him 2 years ago at GDC myself. I was in a bar, and I was a student at the time, and I was sort of, starstruck by anyone and everyone. And I turned around, and he was just standing there in an after party, and I was just like, you could see the drool just falling down my face. I was like, do not tell me that's John Romero. And I just went over. I just wanted to stroke his hair,
Oh, I don't know.
I kind of just like fumbled. It was like, hi, I like Doom. Yeah.
It's cool. You're getting more eyes on you. It's a cool looking project.
Yeah. Cheers. Hopefully it'll be successful. If it's not, we've tried everything we could.
Well, even if not, you still get you get more of a community. You get more folk. You get more attention on you. And there's nothing stopping you from running it again either.
Sure. And I think Steve Swink mentioned before. He was in a GDC talk that Kickstarter is like a terrible way to raise money, but it's a great way to raise the community. And I see that point completely valid there. The community aspect is really what it's all about,
And have you found the community response being?
And then you can make lots of money.
Have you found the community response to be generally pretty positive?
Yeah. We're still having trouble. Like sort of, maybe they're just not as vocal as other people, but we kind of thought we had an audience that we wanted to find, but I'm not quite sure that we found them yet. I think, the sort of the Binding of Isaac players, the Spelunky players, the ones that love punishment and pain and achieving ridiculously hard things. It's very hard to find those people. If you go on to sort of the forums on TigSource or Reddit, you get instantly bans because you're seen as like promoting your game and stuff. So it's quite hard to find those niche audiences or the niche audience that we're sort of looking for. But hopefully they know about it or will know about it soon. But yeah, the response has been terrific. It's been better than we could have expected, really. Yeah. We just need to get more views on the page. I think that's where we're falling down. That's the challenge.
Yeah, it's always getting people to go on it. At least you're doing the press and trying to get around. The amount of Kickstarters that go on and just say, "I've posted it."
Yeah.
It worked out, universe.
And we knew going
put it out there. Good things will happen.
All-consuming month of pushing updates and news stories and stuff like that. And I look at other Kickstarters, and some of them have maybe 4 or 5 updates over the whole campaign. Yet they've raised their target and then some. So it's kind of funny. It's just there's no way to predict. You can do everything you can do, but at the end of the day, I think some possible external factors are at play as well. Time of the year and stuff that's on E3 that didn't help.
Yeah. E3 timing it can be very rough. Actually, on one of those things, when you first launched the Kickstarter, the demo wasn't publicly available, was it? That came in a little bit later.
No, so we listened to feedback, and the decision we made at the start was to put it as a backer reward, so that backers could feel like they got something special for them at time of backing. But it seems like they aren't too fussed about that, or weren't too fussed about that. They were just like, I want to fund the game. The demo's cool. Make it publicly available. You get more people playing it, and then hopefully more pledges. So we did just that. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's good, and the demo is worth playing. It's good.
Yeah, and I think it's we see a few Kickstarters that decide to put demos behind, they'll be time limited or a backer reward, and generally, just give them out. You just want as many people to play it as you can. Yeah,
we've made some mistakes. We certainly changed things a little bit if we were to do it again. But I guess it's all a learning experience.
And you've responded pretty quickly as well, which is good.
Yeah. I guess you have to. Yeah. So yeah.
Okay. I think James, do you have any final questions?
Oh no, I think it's pretty covered. I was gonna end with the cotton candy question, but you had to steal that one, didn't you?
Oh, I blew the load, didn't I? I'm very sorry. The one did we actually cover what you're making this in?
We're making it in Unity, if that wasn't already obvious.
Good man.
Yeah.
I assumed, but I wasn't sure.
that's a good sign, because generally Unity games have this sort of Unity feel about them, or Unity sort of look about them, maybe. So that's good. We're trying to get away from that. We're trying to make it not like that, not Unity-ish, I guess. But yeah, like I think part of that is actually the fact that we're writing a lot of our own custom systems. We're not using some of the built-in Unity stuff like they've got like a pathfinding sort of solution. We've wrote our own AI pathfinding scripts and stuff, and I think that helps, you know.
Yeah, and my experience with Unity systems is a lot of the time they're just broken.
Yeah, exactly, and they're very limited. Like, for example, the pathfinding, we couldn't use it because it doesn't work in a dynamically built environment. It only works in a static environment, so we had to go and create our own, which turned out for the better because we've got more control. So.
Yeah, and I was just looking at because you've got some gifs of gameplay on the page, which I love and allows me to put them in the show and stuff like that. But I just noticed I forgot about it in the demo. They've got the mimic chest, and we love mimics.
I love mimics so much. They make me so happy. They're so inherently ridiculous.
Yeah. I don't like the mimics. You just have to walk with them.
I saw it like, yes, I'm being chased by an inanimate object. I love it.
Well, we like them, so keep them in.
It was great to see it surprising some people from live streams. You know, mimic! It's great.
It's always a pleasant surprise, isn't it? As has become a very strange tradition in this show, the end of the show is an opportunity to ask us a question for some reason, if you care. There's no reason to, but just a few people have for some reason.
So, look out your bedroom window. Are you in a bedroom or are you in a...
Yeah, I'm in a bedroom.
In an office, but I have a window.
Oh. Look out your window and tell me what you see.
They're building a house next door, so I can see the frame of a house.
Interesting.
It's nighttime, so it didn't work very well at all.
Well, there was a drug bus next door to me there a few minutes ago, so...
drug bus?
Yeah, there's like 3 cop cars just like pouring into an apartment building.
We have nothing that exciting in Brisbane.
You live in a good neighborhood, don't you?
Yeah.
Well, since we're talking about random stories that happen, I have a small band, and last night when we're at the end of sort of rehearsal, suddenly the band door gets kicked in by 2 drunk men and a drunk woman that just wanted to see who was making the music.
Oh.
They just oh, they were already inside. I just sort of said hello and shook their hand, and it was like, could you please leave? It's pleasant. Nice to meet you. Please forget that all of our band equipment is in this room.
Jeez.
Good evening. Good evening. Okay, enough of Polywaffle and that sort of thing. So, FrankNJohn, check it out on Kickstarter at the moment. You can still get early bird for €8 on that, or per pound. I always do it the wrong way around.
It makes a big difference, man.
Yeah. If only I was doing it on purpose and I wasn't just slow in the head. Sorry about that. So check it out on Kickstarter. There's a demo there available. Give it a shot. It's a prototype showing off concept of the game and everything. Plays really cool. It's fun to play it with a controller or a mouse and keyboard. It works great both. Yes. So thank you for joining us, Paul.
My pleasure.
Mike bringing up. You've been pleasant. So FrankNJohn, looking good. Love it. Good. Thank you for watching. You can catch us on the website 8.5bit.com, Facebook, Twitter, all that jazz. Thank you for coming with me today, James.
No problem, Paul.
You're a sweet, sweet man. And once again, thank you, Paul. And time to go out with
dancing.
Yep.
Okay.